following problem is a very good example of strategy, and in particular of the problem of when to use ID in its elimination form. It's instructive because notice that in the problem there are no tildes, so it's not going to be obvious that you need to use an ID in the elimination form. So let's do it. Okay. So again, show conc as usual. And whenever we're trying to show a conditional, we use a conditional derivation argument. That's a pretty universal rule. The only exception you have at the moment are the rare cases where you can use material conditional. So I'll put as CD here, and I'm going to bring my premise down just so we can look at it and observe the difficulty. Now, the first thing you should notice is that you don't have available either the antecedent of one of those two conditionals nor the negation of the consequent. And indeed, what we're trying to derive is S. And there's no way of deriving S that seems to be straightforward. Now, we might think, okay, well, if I can derive the antecedent of the conditional in 3, I should be on my way. So let's try to do that and see what happens. So show and 3, and assume, since it's a conditional, CD, I'm going to use conditional derivation, and now I have to derive T. And I should immediately see that there is no way on earth that I can derive T directly. There's nothing that will give me T. So I need to try something else. What I'm going to do is derive the consequent by an ID argument. It's my last ditch. So I'll put show consequent. That's the consequent of the conclusion. And I'll assume ID. And now the derivation is relatively simple because I can go 2, 5, MT. In other words, I've gotten either the antecedent of one of the conditionals or, as actually in this case, the negation of the consequent by assuming ID. It gives me an extra premise to work with. And now, with 6, and using the rule MC, which I'd really like you to learn, I can derive the antecedent of the conditional in line 3. So I'll put 6MC/T. It's still going to ask me whether I want T arrow tilde P or P arrow T. And I will want P arrow T. Okay, so now I've got P arrow T, I can readily derive 3, 7 modus ponens, the desired contradictory of 5, namely the negate of tilde S. Now this seems very strange because S, of course, is what I want to show, and I've assumed tilde S, and I've derived S, but that was the only way of doing it. And so now I have 5, 8 ID, and 4 CD. And of course, I check my work. So the moral is, look to see whether you can derive, when you have conditionals, the antecedent or the consequent of the conditional. And when neither of them is anywhere around, think about using an ID argument.